the issues that we wrestle with. It's also to create a space where we can find persons who are going through similar things and we can share and learn from each other. It is also a space where we get as candid can be, because we say what you say here stays here or don't come back here. All right, so we do encourage freedom of speech, to really get the issues out, in the presence of able and capable resource persons who will help us and guide us, um, through a Christian perspective or from a Christian base as to how we go about resolving these issues that we have. And tonight, our resource person is no other than one of our minister, Reverend Oliver Daly. And we just want to extend a big welcome to you, Rev.
Thank you.
Yes, it's big people talk, and so we encourage you to talk to us as candid as possible as well. We've been doing that since I think June, July, thereabout, and so it's good to have you. Before we begin, I'm just going to invite us for a moment in reflection as we go to God to lead us and be in our midst and guide our conversation and our thoughts through this evening's meeting. Sadika, you're with us?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
All right. Can you pray for us, please?
Okay. Most righteous and heavenly Father, we thank you for yet another day. Thank you for your mercies. Thank you for your grace. Thank you for your blessings. Mighty God, even as we're about to embark in a riveting discussion, I pray, oh God, that we will learn from each other experiences. I pray, mighty God, that we will even get new insight into marriage and what it is that marriage is to you, mighty God, as we share our stories and as we communicate with each other. Mighty God, I pray that you will continue to be the spearheader of this Big People Talk program. I pray, Lord Jesus Christ, that young adults who otherwise would have felt uncomfortable or shy to share their stories within the sanctuary or within their different church congregation, they have found a space, Father God, where they can share without judgment. Mighty God, I pray that you will continue to allow this program to grow from strength to strength. Bless the speaker that will be sharing with us this evening. I pray, mighty God, that your will be done. In Jesus Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. All right. So, no, I don't know to get off this. Okay, there we go. All right, big people. So, welcome again. Tonight we're talking about marriage one-on-one. And if you're in the house and you're married, let me just see you indicate, raise your hand, or just say something so we know how many married persons we have in the room. All right, I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4. Myself, 5. 8. Lembe, yes. All right. So we have a number of us who are here who are married, and I suppose you take interest in what we're going to be talking about tonight. And just to let you know that tonight we're really focusing on communication. All right. I came across a passage of scripture that says, a second, I think Reverend Craig is trying to. It's taken from Ephesians chapter 4, reading from verse 1 to 2, King James Version. And it says, I therefore, the prisoner of the Lord, beseech you that ye walk worthy of the vocation wherewith ye are called, with all lowliness and meekness, with long suffering, bearing one another in love. And so a part of this love and this expression, we believe in marriage, we believe is communication. And so that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. At this time, I'm just going to invite our Reverend Daly just to greet us before we begin. Few opening words.
Well, it's a joy to be with you and to have the opportunity to reflect with you in an area of life that touches every human being, family and marriage. Because whether or not we are in a marriage, we are in family. And in a sense, marriage and family affect. It's a joy to be with you and to have the opportunity to reflect with you and to listen to you as we together share in this encounter this evening.
All right, thank you much, Rev. All right, so big people, let us talk. Communication. What does that mean to you when you hear that in a marriage, communication is important? What are you hearing? Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing sharing of information,
Okay.
so that each partner understands what the other partner is saying, feedback, and for the marriage and the relationship to progress without much issues. Because when you communicate, you expect the person to understand you better so that you guys can be on the same page.
All right. Anybody else? Anybody else? When you hear communication, what are you hearing? Sharing, feedback, understanding. All right, so the first question, is there? Go ahead.
Communication, from my understanding, is the encoding and decoding of messages.
All right, so I like that one, encoding and decoding. So you're hearing, you're trying to break down what you've heard, interpret it for it to make sense. All right, now what are some of the ways in which we communicate within a marriage? What are some of the ways in which, let me direct it at you. What are some of the ways in which you communicate in a marriage? I remember we have to talk, you know.
The silent treatment.
Okay.
Which is apparently exactly what we do now.
You're communicating that you are hurt.
Okay.
And that you're angry. It's a non-verbal form of communication.
Okay. So I'm hearing non-verbal. We communicate in a non-verbal way. Mark, you were saying something?
No, I was saying it sounds like that's exactly what we're doing tonight. We all non-verbally communicate.
Non-verbal, I know, right?
Everybody getting the silent treatment tonight, man.
All right.
Okay, good night, good night. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I'm hearing you. Welcome. Go ahead.
Yes, I was been about, so I didn't even get to answer the first question. But let me take it from there. So as it relates to communication, it has to do with, usually when people communicate, it's about something in particular, because no one just gets up and just communicates or communicates. So if one wants to share feelings or share emotions, they communicate. If they want to share information or knowledge, they communicate. So communication has the purposes. So I think it depends on what the end result of that communication is all of. Then you will be able to, formulate a proper definition that fits the context. So within the context of marriage, this is also true because, a husband or wife might want to share some information. Hey, this is what happened at work today, or guess what I learned today, or this is what happened on my walk home from church. So that's one purpose. Another purpose could be that, hey, I'm not feeling so well today. Or when you made that statement, it affected me in this way. I felt embarrassed, or I was actually pleased that you said this. So, when it comes to communication, I think we have to, delve in to the purpose of why that particular communication made or carried out. Well, that's my piece for now.
All right.
Communication core to our human experience. It's critical for a critical element to relationships, whatever the relationship is, whether it's professional, personal, whether it's intimate or not, critical. I mean, if you look at your culture, because you're looking at stuff like art communicates. You're looking at the street sign down the road. It says stop. You see the green light saying go. All these things that is so essential to our human existence. Now, in a relationship, understand it's not just the stuff that's said and the stuff that's read that's important. Like Sadiqa said earlier, there's also the non-verbal stuff that is also critical, especially when it comes to relationships that are marriages and stuff like that. That's my 2 cents. I'm done talk for the night.
All right. Thanks. Anybody else want to weigh in?
It's so important that persons identify
Yes,
communication styles in a marriage. Actually, you hear me clearly?
Yes, we
You're
are.
hearing me clearly?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, it's so important that you identify your style of communicating, because a lot of times, well, I've been married. Let's go from there. But I'm divorced. But one of the things that during marriage is that one person can be very and the other person can be very or
I'm not
they have
hearing.
a different way of communicating. Let's say forms, talk things off at the top of them head.
Delia?
So it's so important that you identify. Yes.
So we lost you. You're going in and out. You said one person can be something and the other person can be something, but we didn't hear what you said.
I'm trying to move closer
Okay.
to the connection. Yes, I was saying that one person can be very chatty while the other person can communicate in a very silent way,
Okay.
in that that person is a listener. However, through maybe, all right, for example, one person can communicate through writing. For if let's say there's a challenge, and one partner, them just want talk, while the next one, they rather to sit down and work out what their thoughts are, write it down and then communicate from there. So it's so important that you identify prior to marriage. And also, I mean, if you go into the marriage and you wasn't paying attention, it's so important that you stop and recognize what is your partner's style of communication. How do they communicate? How do they bring their thoughts across? Because you could be saying, boy, him not talk, but then he communicates through actions. The female, she might internalize, and then instead of to tell you say she gonna fix it, she show you say she gonna fix it. So it's so important to identify what is the communication style of each individual within a marriage.
All right. Is there anybody else who wants to comment? I'm going to go over to Rev, so just indicate if you want to. All right. So Rev, I'm hearing types of communication. I'm hearing learning your partner's style of communication. But what exactly, when we say communication, what are we talking about? What does it mean, and how important is it to this marriage relationship?
Okay. Communication is critical and crucial, because it is through communication that we get an understanding of issues that are on the table.
Yes.
That we are encouraged to deal with those issues in such a way that we make decisions that give a sense of direction to whatever is on the table. Now, so communication is intended to, whatever it is, to make issues clear, to make it clear what an issue is, and to look at the issue in a rational and responsible way, coming to a decision about what is to be done about it. Because what often happens in a marriage is that we talk and we express ourselves, but we do not make decisions that give a sense of direction. And it is this lack of a sense of direction, because a decision is made that is mutually respected, that leads to the breakdown of the marriage. So communication is critical, that it may be understood in this sense. Often, when I hear persons say that somebody is what word do they use now? Is miserable, or is miserable, I usually say to them, I bet you that person is expecting you to make a decision that is not being made. Or somebody is nagging. I bet you that here is a situation where a decision is to be made between two people. That decision is not being made. There is no sense of direction, and therefore there's a fermenting of feelings. Are you with me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's what I see communication is. But I would rather put the issue before we can discuss communication. And I would like us to see if we can have a perspective and understanding of what makes a marriage function, and in the first instance.
Okay.
I think that's because communication is just one of the issues at stake.
Right.
Right? So let us see if I can spend a few minutes and and identify from my understanding what it is that makes a marriage function. How long do we have on this in this evening?
Until you say when, Rev.
All right.
We have about an hour and a half to 2 max.
All right. Okay. So let us put that the communication within the wider issue of marriage itself. Now, marriage is God's idea. So I usually begin that way. It is God's idea. And God has never had a bad idea. So it can never be a bad idea. Whatever the world says, or however the world approaches it, it can never be a bad idea because it is God's idea. It's an idea that is based on mutuality. It is not good that man should live alone. It is a call for mutuality. So where the mutuality is absent, the relationship is threatened. Marriage is the most complex of all human relationships. Probably the most intricate of all, because I usually say, if my friend and I in the street have a fuss and a quarrel, or my friend and I at the workplace have a fuss and a quarrel, and we have a difficulty, when it is over, I leave and my friend goes to where he or she lives and I come to where I live. But when my wife and I have an issue, it is only in this relationship, if this issue is not resolved, I am expecting her to share the most intimate part of her life with me. Or I am expecting to share the most intimate part of my life with her. It is only in this relationship that that level of some entering your body and sharing your body becomes a part of life. So it is in that context that it becomes very, very complex, along with other things, becomes very complex. So I just want to note that. The next thing I want to note is that people get married because they want each other to, they want the needs, some needs to be addressed by each other. In other words, there are some needs I have that only my wife I expect to address. Nobody else. And there are some needs she has that she expects to be addressed only by me. When those needs are not addressed, marriage doesn't work, right? And when needs are not addressed, things don't appear to be relevant. And when things are not relevant, people tend to begin to look at what their choices are and what their options are, and all sorts of things happen in that context. If you want to stop me at any point, you can stop me and say something, all right? Have you heard me so far?
Clearly.
Okay. Now, underlying the issue of needs and met and unmet needs is the issue of human feelings. All of our lives' issues are about our feelings. And it is in the context of marriage that feelings are to be recognized, respected, and addressed. Now, may I say this to you? And I say this to you because I'm a human being. No one chooses his feelings about anything. We don't choose to be angry. We don't choose to be sad. We don't choose to be happy. We don't choose our feelings at all. if we could choose our feelings, we would never be sad and angry, and we would always choose to be happy. We wouldn't grieve if we could choose our feelings. Our feelings choose us. We manage our feelings, and we manage them in relationships. And I try to get this across from time to time to people, to get them across to in all the settings of my life. People do not have the capacity to choose how they feel about anything. As a result of which, one of the things I always acknowledge is that when the people in my life say my wife is expressing her feelings about something, I listen. Because if I don't address those feelings, the relationship is not going to get sorted out. There's something at stake that needs to be sorted out. Am I being clear?
Yes, Rev.
Okay, good. So about needs, about relevance, and about feelings, marriage. Now, so to go back then, and I'm coming to the issue of communication. What are the needs? What are the needs that we have that that need to be addressed in a marriage, which if not addressed, make the marriage, impact the quality of the marriage, right? Impact the quality of the marriage. And the more unmet needs there are in a marriage, the more layer of unresolved issue there is in the marriage, and the more difficult it is in the marriage for effective communication to take place. Are you hearing me? Right? The more unresolved feelings there are, the more unmet needs there are, and the more unmet needs there are, the more layers of unresolved conflicts there are, and the more layers of unresolved conflicts there are, the more difficult it is for people to communicate effectively and meaningfully. All right. Okay. I lived in Mandeville, and I'm going to give you an analogy of what I mean. I live in Mandeville, and if I travel from Mandeville to Santa Cruz, I have to go down a hill called Spur Tree. I don't know if everybody who is listening to me knows where Spur Tree is. But the point is that there is a hill to negotiate. It's 7 miles from Mandeville to the end of Spur Tree, I'm told. And you need to imagine that I'm driving a car from Mandeville to Santa Cruz every morning with bad brakes. And somehow I negotiate my way down to Santa Cruz with the bad brakes day after day and week after week. But one morning, somebody spills oil on the road, and I crash. And I have to work out what causes the crash. Is it the bad brakes that have been there unfixed, or is it the oil on the road? Well, an unfixed marriage is like a bad brake going down the hill. Something happens along the way that makes this thing get worse, and some people are not too sure if it is the immediate thing that happens that creates a problem, or if it is the bad brake. And so, and often what happens, the bad brake is the unresolved issues that create layers of tension and problem over a period of time. All right, do you want me to stop there and then ask a question? And then I want to go into, so what is it that each woman expects a man to do for her to feel her need is being addressed and what it is that each man expects this woman to do for him. Because you asked me about love language, and it is there I'm going. Go ahead. Any question?
Okay. All right, guys. So what we've heard so far, let me just aid you along the way. What we've heard so far is that if there are unmet needs, if feelings are not, well, they don't choose us, right? Well, we don't choose them rather, but they choose us. If they're not heard, if our needs are not met, then the marriage doesn't work. Things become irrelevant. And when things become irrelevant, there are options. I saw you begin to explore options. I saw a comment in the chat that said, unresolved issues becomes a barrier to communication. Now, what are your thoughts? Do you find this to be true? Do you disagree?
All right, so I am not married, but you need to be married to see how true that is.
Okay.
Because you know that
I'm not hearing
if you
clearly.
have the, all right, can you hear me now, Rev?
Yes, a little better.
Yes. Yes, so I was saying that, you know, this is true because if there are unmet needs, as you pointed out, and then now the party within the marriage that is not, their needs aren't being met, then you know it's gonna be like something that's flaring on the inside. Then now the longer that goes on, then you know the worse it gets. And then now without not being able to communicate that to the relevant party or the other partner now, you know, that person might start to see someone else out there that they might feel more comfortable expressing that too. Then now it creates a problem because now this is where the exploration of an option comes into play, and then you know that's a big threat to the union. So that's just my take on that.
Okay.
All right, thank you. I'm seeing Treo.
Hi, good night.
Good night. Welcome.
Hi, Suzette, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Good stuff. Just to add to little as to what Rev said, I believe a part of the unmet needs, it could also be looked at from another point of view, where, as he said, unresolved issues. As I said, I'm not married as yet, but soon. But however, based on what I'm thinking and with having a little bit of experience in dating, I've come to realize that when you have a situation where you have issues happening upon issues upon issues upon issues, but yet still both parties fail to acknowledge the issues and also fail to resolve them, I believe that too is like, as he said, a bad break heading down a hill. I believe, and I've learned that whenever, as my grandma would have said, strike the iron while it is still hot. Whenever situations happen, you know, as a part of the communication barrier, if you fail to communicate them, communicate about them, I believe that, you know, it's just like you getting a bruise on your leg, or you're taking it for granted until it turns into a big cut that maybe needs a surgery or something of that nature. So that is what I'm taking from what he is saying currently.
Okay. All right, thank you. Shanika? No, don't want to share. All right. So yes, go ahead, please.
Continue.
No?
So you tell me when you want me to return to the presentation.
Okay, yes. Okay, continue.
Okay, all right. So we got it that a marriage with unresolved issues is dysfunctional. Okay. And so you talk about communication. I read something the other day that says only 10% of our communication is verbal, is in word. 4% it is in the tone that we use to express our words. And 50% is in our body language. All right? That's the 10% is in the words we use. 40% is the tone of the word, the anger, the this, the that, and 50% is the body language. I want to make that point. Okay. So quick, let us go and talk about needs now, unresolved issue. And I want to be as clear as I can in this. Marital conflict is created in one of two ways. All right, I'm gonna identify. Couples fail to make each other happy, or couples make each other unhappy. So simply, one of two ways. We make each other happy or unhappy. We deliberately hurt each other, and there is a feeling that we then develop. Somebody fails to clear, or we say somebody fails to protect. So a failure to care, a failure to protect because we feel hurt. So that is an underlying issue. Am I clear? Failure to care, failure to protect. So something happening and somebody said, this person don't care, this person protect, and the issue develops into unresolved, the need to resolve conflict. Now, the other thing that I want to say before I then identify the needs that are there is an analogy that I saw somebody make one day, heard somebody make one day. That marriage is a love bank. Marriage is like a love bank. In a bank, people make deposits and make withdrawals. Now, meaningful exchanges and meaningful encounters and the meaningful handling of feelings are deposits. All right? Painful experiences, painful encounters, and painful because our feelings are not addressed are withdrawals. So if we are having more withdrawals than deposits, then the relationship is in overdraft. And when that begins to happen, then it is because the needs that are to be met are not being met, and the needs that are to be met are the needs that contribute to deposits. Okay. Now, I know of a man that says, we talk about love language. They say there are 5 love languages, but what has impacted me most is a study that says that there are 5 needs that a woman brings expects a man to address. And there are 5 needs that a man expects a woman to address. So in the context of the love bank, in other words, there are 5 things that a woman expects to be deposited in her account. And there are 5 things that a man expects to be deposited in his account. And when these are being deposited, the love bank is functioning. And when they are not being deposited, the love bank is not functioning. And when a bank has more withdrawal than deposits, the bank is failing. So let me identify these needs that I learned through a man who did a wonderful work, what makes a marriage function. 1, every woman has a need for a man who is affectionate in relating to her. Her husband tells her words with words. Her husband tells her, shows his affection with, some would think flowers, some would say gift.
Chocolate.
Courtesies. A common courtesy. A woman, the average, I don't think the average woman, as even in a feminist age, I don't feel that the average woman, there's a woman who does not like to have a courteous man in her life, who shows some common courtesies. A man who hugs and kisses her, many times for the day for that matter. Creating an environment of affection that clearly and repeatedly expresses his love for her. Affection is an underlying issue for the average woman. Not that men don't like it and don't appreciate it, but the average woman wants a man to be affectionate towards her, in relating to her and in dealing with her. That's a basic thing, and I try to get my male friends to understand it so much, how important it is for a man to feel affection. And by the way, for those who are not married but thinking about it, I want to say this to you. Many times, all the issues of marriage are the unresolved issues of courtship. Many times. So if there is an issue that is not being addressed and is not being resolved in courtship, it is not going to be resolved in marriage. It's going to get worse. So it is important that we understand and appreciate this about courtship, which is why premarital counseling is so important. Sometimes it's there that we get to point out things to people and they get a chance to resolve them before they get married. So there's affection. The second thing that the average woman wants from her partner is conversation. Conversation. It is said that the average man speaks 12,000 words a day, and given a chance, he speaks most with his friends and on the job. And it is said that the average woman speaks 50,000 words a day, and she wants most of those pour into the most important relationship of her life. It is not a criticism that women love to talk. It is a part of their makeup, right? But women just doesn't like to talk. They love to talk with the person who is in their lives, who is in their relationship. So the man needs to set a time to talk with her. They talk about events in their life, then talk about their children. They have children, they talk about their feelings, their plans. They talk about just anything, right? But it is very important to a woman, and that she talks to him so much about her interest and his interest. And I usually say to people who are married, on a scale of 1 to 10, just grade how much affection you get, or just grade how much conversation you enjoy, because you get a chance to feel where you are in the continuum. If it is below 10, you need to ask why. Okay. So conversation is very, very important to a woman. It's important to men too, but I have found that in my sessions with people, a lot of times I hear her saying, he does not talk to me. And a lot of time what happens, I must say this to you honestly, that many distractions and many people who find an option outside their marriage is normally with somebody who was talking to her outside, who was listening to her and talking to her and make her feel that she's valued, right? It's not to be accepted, but I'm just sharing the reality. Is man and woman talk, right? Good.
Yes.
All right. So conversation, and I learned this. I know this. I know that when my wife comes home and she starts to talk, I know all the issues that impact her in the day. She wants to talk about them, and she wants me to listen. And by the way, men, when our partners start talking about what happened at work in the day, they are not expecting her to resolve the issue for them. They're not looking advice from us, because they want us to listen to them like nobody else at the work can do so. Only me can put an affectionate arm around my wife and say, don't mind. That's all she wants. Now listen to her. She don't want me to tell her that she make a mistake and she this and this and become the boss who say, why you didn't handle this way. Just an affectionate arm around the shoulder is a part of the conversation. Okay. The third thing that the average woman expects is a man who is honest and open. Honesty and openness, transparency, truthfulness, trustworthiness. That makes a woman feel secure. And in this world in which we are, the biggest instrument of insecurity in a many marriages is that telephone, that cell phone. The biggest instrument of insecurity is the technology. No, on a personal note, I don't have no protection on my phone. Anytime anybody in my house want to look at it, then can go and go look at it. I not tell you to do the same thing. but anytime I have nothing on my phone that I don't trust my wife with. Nothing at all. So I have no protection on the phone. And just because it has become an instrument of problem in the average marriage, unfortunately. Okay, so honesty and openness. So he tells her about himself. He prevents a situation where she gets surprises. He shares his negative and positive feelings with her. Just being honest and open, that makes the average woman feel secure. The woman who feels secure in a marriage with her man is empowered, really empowered. And if she does not feel secure, she is discouraged, concerned. Okay. The fourth thing that the woman expects is financial support. It has nothing to do with how much the average man earns, but how he uses it with her to meet the goals and need of family life. All right? It has nothing to do with how much she earns or he earns. It has to do with how he uses and works with her to meet the goals of family life. He assumes responsibility for what is necessary to make a family enjoy what I call financial peace. He does what is necessary. Every single day of life, money is on the agenda of a family. Every single day. There is not a day it is not on the agenda. So it's very important to the average woman and one of the things that goes along with that, for example, is for the average woman, it's so important that they own a house. You know, it is so important and critical that she has somewhere that she feels old age going to take care of. Sometimes women take a little slower to get there, but it's very important to the average woman. To the average man too, you know. But we tend to be a little slower sometimes in getting there. So financial support. And the fifth thing that the average woman likes is family commitment. She likes a man who is committed to family life. All right? He commits sufficient time and energy when they are children to the moral education and development of the children. He takes responsibility to read to them, to help to put them to bed. The things that make for family life. I have my weaknesses. My wife will tell you, but me understand that. In that regard, I know that when I do something at home, if I sweep out the house, or if I wash the dishes, or if I do this, I am not helping my wife, I'm playing my part. I am playing my part. Whatever I do, I am not helping my wife, I am playing my part. In essence, the average woman expects her husband to play his part in family life issues and family commitment. Those 5 things, all the other things tend to revolve around them. So communication around those things is what really builds and makes the marriage function. Now, if you were noting, taking some note, I don't know if you are, I'll repeat them. The need for affection, the need for conversation, the need for somebody who is open and honest, the need for somebody who recognizes the importance of financial supportiveness. It's not about how much he earns, and the need for family commitment, playing his part in relation to the issue of building a family. Okay, so what does the man expect? And when I'm finishing that, now we're going to have a discussion because I have something to say afterwards. After that, but I want to stop after I discuss the man's needs that he brings to the marriage. We call it the love language then. You have to talk about love language. Affection is a love language. Conversation is a love language. Honesty and openness is a love language. Financial support is a love language. Family commitment is a love language. Okay. Now.
Rev, I'm sorry. Before you move, I just want to hear if anybody wants to share in terms of what you've just presented, right?
Okay. Before I go on.
Yes.
Okay, please. Yes, I'm willing to listen.
Okay. If anybody wants to share, is it difficult? How do you find communicating? Or for example, you spoke about the irresistible man. So in other words, this is what I want from the male. So for the females on the platform, do you find it easy to communicate these desires? Because I would imagine sometimes we have it, Rev, but we either don't know how to communicate it, or you mentioned something, I'm writing, or our tone outweighs, tone and body language outweighs what we really, outweighs the feeling in terms of it's more negative than positive. Ladies, how do you find that? Do you find it easy to communicate these desires that you have? And what is an effective way that, what share with us a way that has worked for you?
Also, are these, are they the desires that really summarize the need?
Yes.
You can also comment on that too.
Yes. All right. So you're telling us, you're sharing with us if this sums up what you really want as a female, and if so, how do you communicate these needs and these desires to your partner, and what you find is the best way to say it and to get it, say it to get it done, so to speak. Rev have a lot to share, you know, so the faster you talk is the more we get out of him. He's not available like this a lot of times, so.
If we don't finish, you know, and we learn something, I'm okay, you know.
Okay, all right, Rev.
Many times I prepare a sermon and don't finish it.
Okay. All right, ladies. What do them people have?
Good night. Good night.
Good night, AM.
Right, I think it depends on the age group of the person, because as females, we tend to mature much faster and know what we want much earlier.
Okay.
So once, and as Rev rightly says, those really do summarize exactly what we want in a nutshell, because you know women want everything. But in a nutshell, those are the headlines, and everything will fall underneath. And as females, as I said earlier, we do mature earlier, so we know what we want. So if it is that a male is in our age group, oftentimes they may not be ready for what we are ready for. So in that time, you may have to constantly be reiterating that this is what I want and this is what I'm aiming for. No, I'm not about, you know, the life of running around and whatever. So this is what I want. No, but for other persons, males who may be of the same mindset as you, you don't have to remind them so often. They are often on the same track as you are.
Okay, thank you. All right, so in the chat I'm seeing, so well, forgive me for not remembering the names. Someone saying to be direct. I think I caught Nicola's name saying showing it, and reiterate and discuss uncertainty. I was going to ask you guys to role play and just pretend that you're saying your partner is not demonstrating the level of affection that you want, and you want to communicate that to him. When you say be direct, what do you do? What do you say? Because if I know us as ladies, you know, we're not going to put it good, you know. We're going to cuss. And so you just come in here and not even one little chocolate, you know, can't come in. Not every night you come in, I same thing, and then later on you want to draw close to me. You think I saw this thing go? Talk to me, people. How do we communicate? How effective is that? Same way. All right, so somebody's confessing. They say, same way would I say that. That's the truth. It's how we do it most times, eh?
That's why I give you this thing about 10% in words, 40% in tone, and 50% in body language.
Yes.
You know? And the thing about it is that when there are these unresolved issues in our relationship, then two things are likely to happen, which is why what you just said about how we communicate becomes important. One, we develop a feeling of tolerance, and at best, tolerance is disguised resentment, disciplined or disguised resentment. So if you are these things are not happening, you can't communicate them to the person, then you develop resentment, and at its very best, resentment, tolerance is disguised or disciplined resentment, and it's gonna come out midnight when you want something else. All right? Or the other thing that happens is we get angry, and the more angry you get with somebody, the less compassionate you're going to be. Hence the need for the communication that I earlier said, that addresses the issues, made the issues clear, come to a sense of decision, that offer a sense of direction, the communication. Okay. Anyhow, I would encourage, I would love to hear more comments coming from men too, who are here. Do we understand that this is what a woman asks and need?
Any comments? Nicola is saying my body language tells all. No need for words. He knows exactly what I'm saying without me saying a word. Then Nicola, suppose he misread. Suppose he misinterprets.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Hi, good evening. This is Twain.
Hi, Twain. Welcome. Good to see you.
There's a couple of things. Well, one of the comments that Rev made earlier, I think, is such a big point in relation to men's participation in the home. And it is not that I'm helping my wife. So we actually see ourselves as a part of the equation. And I feel very strongly, because it's the same thing I feel when people see me out with my daughters and ask me if I'm babysitting. I don't babysit my own children. And so whenever anybody asks me if I'm babysitting today, I say, if you saw the children with their mother, you'd never say that they're babysitting, because I'm a part of the equation. And so I think it's the same thing, just in relation to that coming against kind of cultural norms about established roles about what men do and what women do. And I think that this generation, we're seeing that evolve a lot. And just to put a quick comment on the statement that was made earlier about women knowing what they want a little bit before men. I think that generally speaking, women have been cultured to anticipate a marriage relationship, a settle down kind of relationship. While I believe that men have been encouraged over time to kind of sow your oats before you settle down. And so I will challenge the notion that men take longer to settle down. I think men know what they want. I just don't want. I know that I don't want a steady relationship. That is knowing what I want. So
all right,
and it
Twain,
just,
all right, challenge it.
so I think it's just based on a cultural norm. But I do believe that it's important that we kind of reorient our young men for what I believe that the Bible calls us to, in terms of a man-woman relationship, one man and one woman. So that will require some reorientation. I do believe that conversations like this will help us along that path to reorient our own mindset, because sometimes I don't even think that, me included, sometimes I don't even realize how we've been ingrained in our culture to operate a certain way. And I think that conversations like this will help us to move forward. So those are just my few comments.
Okay, and awesome comments too, Twain. So I want to give room back to Rev to take us over to the men's side of it. What is it that they want? How do they communicate it, and how do we receive that?
Okay,
Very
good. Now, as I go to address what I understand to be the average man need, I want to put something, a principle on in this discussion. A principle that every man and every woman needs to keep close to his or her heart. And it is the priority of my partner's feelings. The priority of my partner's feelings. Okay? All these 5 things of which I spoke that the woman has, the man needs to understand and appreciate the priority of the wife's feelings in relation to these things. And all along in the continuum, I have this appreciation of the priority of my wife's feelings, not the priority of my feelings, but of her feelings. Okay? If I can make her feelings my priority, and if she can make my feelings her priority, that's the best form of communication in dealing with these needs, which takes me to the man now. What are his needs? And I suppose you can assume what is the first one: sexual fulfillment.
Why that has to be at the top of the list, right?
Because that's where the average man is.
That's where he communicates easy.
Yeah, that's the first need. That's where the average man is. It is said that the average man, sexual issues enter his mind every 10 seconds, 7 seconds.
My God.
I don't know if it's that bad. Don't make it personal though. Don't let me speak now. Don't ask me.
Wow.
What a burden. What a burden.
Wow.
Rev.
Yeah?
Go ahead, please.
Rev, you notice that when you notice when you mention a woman's primary need, nobody had any comment. It was accepted, and as soon as the man need come in now, it become a cantankerous issue. I leave it there. Repeating you.
I'm actually smiling and I'm not being cantankerous.
Yeah. Sexual fulfillment.
You say you ask why that has to be the first issue, because it is what it is.
Huh? So what does it involve? The average woman studies her own sexual response to figure out what really brings out the best in her partner. And she shares that information with him. Here is where communication is so important between two people. Because the language we use in working out our issues are so different. But the fact is that we need to be able to share and talk and express ourselves to be able to work out our sexual issues. And for some people, it takes time. Yeah, some of years I've been with couples who after sometimes 10, 15 years, they work out some things. So it needs patience and good communication and trust in each other, trusting my feelings to you. Now, and I need to say this to a man now. The average woman finds it very difficult to give herself willingly to a man who does not treat her well.
Talk up, ladies, not the table. I.
Huh? Huh?
I'm seeing if the ladies are agreeing, but I don't hear anything.
Yes, I'm just saying so. The average woman.
That's so. That is so. And I'm
All
talking
right.
from experience. That is so.
So, although it is a priority for you, man, remember this. The average woman finds it difficult to give herself willingly and terrifically in sex to a man who is not affectionate towards her, who does not treat her well. All right? So hear what now? Hear what now? Hear what now? The average man can get excited on what he sees, but the average woman can only respond properly on how she's being treated.
Amen.
And we men need to understand that. Yo, she's being treated. So I tell you, a good night sexually for so many women begins at 4 o'clock when you text her and say, how are you?
Talk truth, Rev.
Yes, exactly. Talk the truth, Rev.
That's when it began. Midnight was a fulfillment of that call at 4 o'clock. Huh? So the
I love the simulation of the man. So it does start at 4 or 5.
Yes, yes. And men, I say this to you. The average man wants to use sex to make up. But the average woman wants to have sex because we have made up.
Hear, hear. The church say amen.
Amen, amen.
Amen.
So although it is the first need that the average man has, these things, it's catch-22, you know, many times.
Rev, just a minute. There's a comment in the chat that says that he's not average. He's not average man. So where does he fall?
Okay, he needs to say a little more. When I say the average man, at least most men, or if not all, right? That's how we make up. You understand? Yeah.
Somebody say, add up yourself and divide by 2.
Okay, so women need to recognize the importance of sex to the average man, to man then, but the man now needs to recognize the mutuality involved in this, that the unmet needs. It's difficult to give herself totally and terrifically and when she's not being treated well at all. Okay, so that's the first. The second need that I think the average...
Well, you see how long you take to discuss you want something for the man them. That's so important, Rev.
Because it tends to be a very critical issue.
Of course.
Then you say you never labor over one something for you, say that out of all the fight that you did for us as women, you did not labor over it. And I'm so appalled at how you labored at it for the men tonight.
Is the men I'm talking to?
No, but it's that important when you're talking about.
Though, you know, it's a laboring activity if you ask.
Because
you know how much stress and nightmares it causes me?
Yes. Because it is one of the areas of marriage that suffers from that induces all sorts of other issues, unfortunately. All right. Okay.
It just shows you how uncomplicated men are.
Why I spend so much time on it is because in my years of counseling, the breakdown of the other areas make this one so difficult for many women. And I did say to you, when needs are not met, relationships don't appear to be relevant, And Satan begins to tell us that we must look at our options. And some people find some very destructive options.
Agreed.
And I think to Rev, you know, on the whole issue of communicating, I think, and I'm asking for the ladies to talk if they agree, that sometimes saying no or rejecting this intimacy, this sexual act, so to speak, is one of our ways of communicating as ladies, to say, no, I need more affection. Is you know?
Yes.
Ladies?
So is it possible for them to get affection through that only, or is it that, well, Rev alone can answer, but I mean, just that alone cannot bring across affection to males. That's where I'm understand. It cannot be just when you are enjoying that you feel as if you're getting love or whatever. It must come some other way. I mean, what happened when that stopped functioning? You get what I mean? So it just got to be something else.
So she's saying that there are other factors towards this man feeling a sense of worth, and if I'm hearing you correctly, AM.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, oh yes, I have some others to share with you.
Yes, Rev, you can go ahead.
Go ahead, Rev. Don't mind us. Go ahead.
Okay, all right. I don't know if all of us men are like that, about the next one I'm going to talk about. And I don't get personal. I don't put myself in the story when I share anything like this, but I'm going to do so right now. I love cricket. I really love cricket. I mean, my difficulty right now is how the West Indies don't make me enjoy coming to watch them. I love cricket. So going to Savannah Park is a very big thing for me. But I enjoy it more when my wife goes with me to Savannah Park, because I just like when she participates in my recreational interest. And I have discussed this with a lot of men, and they say, yes, I love when my wife is a recreational companion. That the things that I enjoy recreationally, she shows an interest in them. And in some instances where she can, she also participates in them. So even when a game of cricket going on, and I'm watching it at home, oh Lord, I love when she sit on my side and watch it with me. The principle is that the average man, or I would say men, because I'm hearing a difficulty with the word average, wants his recreational interest to be enjoyed by, supported by, and respected by his partner. Okay? Now, of course, there are limits, and there are different recreational interests here, but this is a principle though. And it makes such a difference. And when I talk with other guys about it, they say, yeah, it's true. But so many women don't necessarily recognize that as a part of the game of building a good relationship. The third thing that I would say that is important, man, is what I call and what they call physical attractiveness. Now, that has nothing to do with size or this or that. It comes across to different people in different ways. But soon you will know what makes you attractive to your partner. What physical attractiveness? And soon I know, my wife knows what makes her attractive to me. It comes across in my compliments. Okay? It comes across in my compliments. It comes across in the things I say. When she puts on what she puts on. It comes across in ways but 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 she knows that her attractiveness is important to me, and I think that is true for all of us men. The other one is what they call domestic support. In that, I have already said, and I'm gonna say that earlier on.
Rev,
Huh?
I think they want to fasten your business, you know. Somebody saying, what she put on, Rev?
Huh?
Somebody's
Well,
asking, what is it that she puts on that gets the compliment? Maybe they're looking for some suggestions for themselves.
well, I don't want to get personal.
Sorry, T. Agree, Rev, agree.
But you get the idea though, right?
Definitely, Rev. That's the spirit, Keisha. Lunchtime. Yes,
so,
Rev. Mhm.
so he is attractive to her. She is attractive to him he's attracted to her in private and proud of her in public. That's about the attractiveness. Am I clear?
Yes.
Is that clear? Somebody can tell me if that's clear.
Clear.
Okay. The other one is what they call domestic support. And I want to remind you that I've already said that when I do something at home, I am playing my part. I am playing my part. But I think it's still true in our culture that the average man expects a woman to create a home that offers him a refuge from the stresses of life. That she manages the household responsibilities in a way that encourages him to spend time in the house and enjoy his home, his family. Sure, as I said, there are shared responsibilities in managing it, when planning meals, and in plan to organize the place, and somehow I have come to expect that. And when I talk to men, yes, we expect all women to manage, to organize, to run. We play our part. We must play our part. I can tell you this personally, there is nothing that my wife would ask me to do in terms of what she needs my help for to run the house that I wouldn't want to do it. There's no errand I wouldn't want to go. Because many times she has thought about putting this thing there so and putting this flower pot there long before I didn't think about it. So I just support her. Because I love to see when the place is organized and ordered and the home is well managed, and my friends can visit, and I'm happy about the environment in which I am, and I play my part in getting that done. But I somehow feel that the average one of us expects our wives to manage and organize and run that, even though she expects me to play my part. And the last thing that I think that the average man expects, that is what I call admiration. We as men like to be admired by our partner. All right? I want to be admired and appreciated by my wife more than by anybody else. If I preach a sermon and the world says it nice, it doesn't mean as much to me as if my wife did say, Lord, it was good. It mean the world to me. It mean the world to me to hear her say, boy, that tie look nice on you today, or that so and so, and so and so. Now, in that regard, that the average woman needs to recognize that so many of us men have very brittle egos, and blame and shame are very unhelpful ways of dealing with our disappointments. All right? So she reminds him of his value. She reminds him of his achievements, and she helps him maintain his self-confidence. So she avoids criticism. She's proud of him, not out of duty, but from a profound respect for the man she chooses to marry. So she learns, therefore, to handle his feelings well. And that's why I began by talking about the priority of my partner's feelings. So how I am communicating is in the context of the priority of my partner's feelings along these lines. Okay. Okay, so let me stop now.
All right.
I have some other things I can say, but
I was very distracted. I got only 4 things that the average man wants.
What 4 you
just
have?
go over them for me.
If somebody else heard, you can repeat them.
All right. So the first one is sexual fulfillment.
Okay.
Yes.
Then there's recreational companionship.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't get that one. All right, thanks.
Okay. Physical attractiveness, domestic support, and admiration.
Yes.
All right. So, gentlemen, we're talking about communication, and all of what Rev just said has a lot to do with communication, whether it's verbal or non-verbal. And after this, we want to get to this whole love language that everybody's talking about, learning your partner's love language and using it to communicate. What is that all about? But let's hear from you, men. Has this summed up what you desire, and how do you communicate these desires to your partner, to your wife? Do you find it easy? Twain, go ahead.
All right. So very well, you can't see me. But anyway, so it has been definitely a learning process for me over the years. Because I've always found it easy to socialize in large groups and maybe have surface conversations, but it's a very different matter when you have somebody living with you and you need to express certain feelings. And I've always felt like my wife had a better handle on her emotions and being able to express them. And whenever it came to matters of emotion and that kind of thing, was very hard because it was just not in my modus operandi.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's something I've had to develop and still developing over the years, because I just never found it very easy to communicate, whatever, regardless of what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But you see the importance, though.
Yeah, man, definitely. And I mean, I think that, and even just jumping back, Rev said don't want to get personal, but I will get personal with that example for me. So I remember very early in my, there was an issue for me in relation to phones, because I had a work phone that doubled as my personal phone, and as a part of the having an email on your phone is that it needs to have a password on it, right? So there would be times when the phone was locked or whatever the case may be, and Tanika would have it, and I just had this major issue, because I was like, why you keep on going in the phone and blah 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 blah. And it was a transitional phase for me, accepting that somebody else had access to my information. It wasn't that I had. Oh, okay, I soon come. It wasn't that I had anything to hide, but I guess it was just for all my life, my information has been mine, everything has been mine. And then now having to share this with somebody else, and also having to have conversations about it. So if there was something that looked suspicious, there wasn't anything in my mind to be suspicious about, but if there's something that looked suspicious, and then I would be asked a question, I felt like I was defending my personal information, you know what I mean? So then it was a transition for me, because coming from a position where, as I said, everything was mine, I never had to explain myself to anybody, I never had to go say where I was going or whatever the case may be. I know I am responsible for somebody else and to somebody else. That wasn't the easiest transition for me, but over time I realized that it is for our own mutual benefit. And so if I've made a commitment to this other person, my wife, then now everything that I have has become hers, and my vows said as much. But just in terms of the thing of the vows and the practicality, there was a big gap. But I definitely realized that communication is something that you work on over time. And I mean, for me, as I said, it goes back to not having that experience over the years, having to explain certain things or even grappling with emotions. You kind of just push it aside and move on. But now there's somebody asking you to express it to them, and that becomes a challenge when you don't even understand it for yourself. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else, gentlemen?
The idea about a marriage is that you have, what you're saying, Twain, yes, but I understand it. I have the whole of my life to change and grow. You getting me? I am growing. I'm still growing in my marriage. I have the whole of my life to change and to grow.
All right, great point. Gentlemen, anybody else wants to come? Yes, Damien.
Let me just chime in. 2 points. Let me just address the more recent. So Rev just said that he's still growing. Now, what if it's a case now where the wife, she's expecting that at a certain point you would have grown and, been at a level where, okay, certain things she should not need to express for you to figure it out at this point. Do you have any such situations that you have to be dealing with right now?
Well,
good question.
I didn't hear clearly.
All right, so basically, at a certain point, is there like a stage where wife is like, all right, we are now married for however amount of years,
yes,
and you should have known basically enough about me for me to not have to tell you that, okay, I prefer it when you do this particular way. You know how I feel about that, so do that instead of this. You indicated just now that you're still learning, still growing. So
yes,
I wanted to know if there was like something or a situation where you could share with us that maybe she would expect something of this sort at one point.
Okay. That would mean that
growing.
I would assume that there's a lack of clarity here, or I would mean that there is need for something to be. Put it this way: when I am reached that point where you are where you are, that question.
I think what he wants to express is you have ever gotten to the point where she expects you to read her mind.
Yes, and how I handle it is this. I need to say to my wife, help me to understand so and so. Because it is, help me, those 3 words become very important at that point. Because there is something that needs to be sorted out in such a context. So my 3 words to her are, help me to understand so and so.
But Rev, doesn't that create, for the woman in that example, wouldn't that create a sense of frustration, considering the context the question was framed in, where she's at the stage where she's saying, we have known each other so long that on this particular issue, you know how I feel about it.
Yes.
But yet you are behaving as if you don't, my feelings are not understood. Why are you now telling me to help you understand when you should
Help me.
understand already? Doesn't that potentially create, further frustration for her?
Well, we are speaking hypothetically, all right? But he's speaking practically. The issue is that, yes, because she is the one who has to help me to understand why this is still happening. There must be a reason. There's a cause and effect in relationship. She's the one. So I'm going to say, I will choose the right. It's important in this case to choose the right moment and choose the right time to have such a conversation.
Excuse me, I think what Rev, I don't know, I think what I got was when Rev said about he's still growing and so, what I got was that, okay, this relationship is a growing relationship. So there is always something to learn, to know, something new, something that, that you haven't known over the years, or you're just finding out about each other more. Or so I didn't look on it from the point that, who is it, Damien? The point that Damien rose, like, okay, so you have known all these things all these years. Why would I need to get you to help me to understand this more?
Yes,
So
you're quite correct. That's what I'm saying. You're quite correct. All right.
All right, thanks.
I'm learning some things and I am growing. Okay, both of us are in a stage of retirement now. And some of the issues that arise in this stage of retirement are quite different from the stage when we were together out there working. And I am learning some new things about myself and she about me and about her in this new stage. Is what I'm trying to say? And I'm growing.
Yes, definitely.
Damien, I just want to identify with you by sharing what I thought you were saying or what I got from what you were saying. So personally, like there are times when I would say to my husband, when he, like, there are some things that I would consider that after a certain time, then you would know this or you should know this. So for example, if we go out and we're ordering a drink and he would turn to me and say, so what drink you having? This is a scenario, I'm just saying. And I would say, well, I mean, you know what I drink? Yeah, I mean, you don't need to ask me. By now you should know what I drink. So what I'm hearing from you, Damien, are you asking that if there's a point in time when, even though you're still learning, there are some things that you should learn and have it under your belt already, so that?
Yes, I understand that. If I were going to buy some things for my wife, I would know definitely I must not buy some things of a particular color.
Okay.
I already know she doesn't like this color. All right.
Yes, Rose, that is it.
Huh?
Yes, so that pretty much cleared that point. Thank you so much.
Yes.
I also have to follow up to that question, which is a slightly more general. So basically, how important is it to be able to read between the lines? Because as we know, with communication, no matter how we think we are,
to read between the
sometimes,
lines. I think is read between the lines.
Okay.
Yes. So So, sometimes we think we're saying something, but that's actually not what we're saying. It sounds clear in our minds. So let's say, wifey, her needs are X, but we're lost somewhere between X and Y because we can't get clearly what she's trying to say. So how important is it to be able to, figure it out even if he's not saying exactly that? I don't know if my question is clear.
Yeah. In many relationships, after a time, you learn something and know some things instinctively about each other. Right? You'll know some things instinctively about each other. Both in the body language and in the response. So you learn some things. You may not know, I may not know in specifically what the issue is about. So I tend to therefore, to the extent where is to explore my wife's feelings. I want to tell her, help me to understand how you feel about so and so. And if she's going to share her feelings with me about something, then I am better able to appreciate why the body language was what it was. I don't know if I'm answering you.
Yes, definitely.
Our feelings are so critical to life. And everything that we do has to do with a feeling. I would, if I'm not understanding, I would ask her to share what her feelings about it.
Okay. All right. So basically we're taking that message. I hope we're all getting it. That a big part of communication is how we feel about things.
Yes.
And therefore time must be taken. No matter how long we've been together, how much time we spend together, time must be taken to hear how the person feels about a particular thing. Because once they begin to share feelings and the other person begins to understand, then it alleviates some of the challenges that will come about for just not knowing or for not understanding what is being communicated.
I think if you have summarized it so well, that I don't need to say a thing more.
Okay, all right. So we want to get to this part now, Rev, about this love language. What is this? Is this something you say when you're making love? What is this love language?
Well, I've heard it in different ways. In a sense, I've heard it in so many ways, expressed in so many ways about love language. So I'm not. I can summarize what I have seen said. What is love language? Some people would say love language is loving words.
Okay.
How we speak to each other. Kind actions. And by the way, I say this generally in life, but particularly in marriage. Give me one reason to be unkind to your partner. Give me one reason that you can give to justify being unkind. As a Christian, definitely. Give me one reason to justify being unkind. And more so in a marriage. Loving words, loving kind actions. Some people would say it's quality time. And some people would say it's thoughtful presence. And some people would say the love language is physical affection. Now, I'm not able to say each means something. The same thing means the same thing to everybody. Some people would say their love language is security. That's what they live for. And some people would say, is meaningful touch. That's the love language, meaningful touch. And some people would say it's spiritual intimacy. I've seen there's a book called The Language of Love. And if any of you ever could pick it up, I couldn't remember it. It's done by a guy called Gary Smalley and John Trent. The Language of Love, very, very, very provocatively written, in which he tries to summarize this language of love issue. So, in the end, though, when I'm talking about love language, I am saying a woman's love language is affection. A woman's love language is quick conversation. A woman's love language is, and I go on. Those things are also the love language I am also trying to share with you.
Okay.
You understand? But so even when I talk about loving words, it's about being affectionate. Even when I talk about kind action and quality time and thoughtful presence, you can give without loving, but you can love without giving.
Mm.
You can give purple things and you don't love them. But no way can you love and you don't give.
So question, Rev.
Yes.
What happens or when do you know it is time to seek help, for outside help now? For example, when this love language thing is not gelling. I'm speaking with my body, but he's not hearing it. Because his love language is verbal. And so I'm feeling like I'm not getting his attention, and he's feeling like I'm not adoring him.
Yes.
At what point do you know that, listen, you need to go get help, or this thing is going to get smelly around here?
When you are not resolving your conflicts, and in relation to your conflicts, you are not getting a sense of direction, because you are unable to make decisions that give that sense of direction. When that is not happening, you need help.
Okay.
When your conflicts are not being resolved and the car is going down Spurtree Hill on bad brakes and bad brakes and bad brakes, and it's getting worse and worse because the conflicts are not being resolved.
Yes.
Okay? Then you need help. In other words, you need a context in which you listen to each other and make decisions that give that sense of direction.
Okay, thank you very much, Rev. Do you feel the church has a role to play in all of this?
Oh yeah.
How does the church fit into all of this in helping us as young adults understand these issues and riding the tide or being better at what we're called to do?
I think the church needs to create more opportunities for these kind of reflections.
Okay.
More and more. I think it should be programmatically arranged.
Okay.
So some churches have couples ministry.
Okay.
But couples ministry should not just be for those who are married, but also for those who plan to and tend to and have an interest in to come in and participate in it. You know?
Okay.
So yes, I think the church should provide more and more opportunities for this to be done programmatically. So I used to, when I was in active ministry, at least once a year, have something like this organized.
Yes.
You know?
Okay. Are there any questions? Yes, sorry.
If I help people, when I meet, you know what I find? I have learned by experience that a good marriage is one in which people are able to negotiate
Okay.
for differences. When we can't negotiate our differences, we are not going to get that sense of direction in relation to our issues.
Okay.
And take it from me, I've said it often, a compromise is the ability in a marriage to give up something that is important to you, that you might preserve, protect, and save something that is essential to both of you.
Wow.
Is that clear?
Yes, yes, it is.
And the most essential thing is the covenantal vow that you made.
Okay.
All right? Because when you can give up something that is important to you, you're focusing on self. Right? And I've learned the importance of giving up something that is important to me, that I might save, preserve, protect something that is essential between us.
Yeah.
And finally, I say this to you. We don't change each other. And this is why the issue between importance and essential comes. If you could change your partner, you would have changed him long ago.
Mm-hmm.
Or if he could change you, he would have changed you long ago. The law of change says we don't change each other. But if we change, it might impact somebody else. Hence the importance and essential issue. If I change, I might impact somebody, and most times we do,
Yes.
and create a better environment for communication.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Rev. Wisdom, as usual. So we basically at the end of tonight's program. So I'm opening the floor again to, you may have a question that you want to come to ask. You may need a bit more information, just to be clear on something as we move from here. So now is your time to ask or give any comments that you may have. No further questions, no comments?
Comment. Reverend Daly, thank you so much. I didn't get all of it, but for what I got, I endorsed and I will try to put in place. It's always refreshing to hear these pointers, and I'm looking forward to use these information in my relationship and also to share with others. So I just wanted to say thank you, Reverend Daly.
You're welcome.
Any other? No? Okay, so Karen saying great session, Rev.
Yeah?
Karen saying great session. Cynthia
Karen.
giving you an applause there.
Who's Karen?
Karen, she's from Westmoreland. Karen.
Hi, Karen.
Yes. Damian said I learned a lot, definitely learned a lot.
Thank you.
Now Karen says hi, Rev. Maybe her mic not working or so. All right, so what we've learned tonight we started out by talking about communication. Well, the comments are there. Excellent session, very informative. Rev is a fountain, love him. That's from Twain, right? We started out by talking about communication, and what we really learned is that before you quite get to communication, you have to learn of the things that are important to each other, right? So that's the first thing about being effective in your communication is learning what is important to each other. And one of the things that we learned is the importance of our emotions or affection, being admired, the things that makes us irresistible and admirable, right? We learned about the 5 things for the female and the 5 things for the male as well. But key that, you know, I'm walking away with is how important the feeling, the affect aspect of it, which is in communicating. It's very important to understand that level of our partner. And if anything ever comes up, then it's always important to seek for clarity, just to understand how are you feeling about this thing, because our feelings, we don't control our feelings. They choose us, right? We don't choose them. They choose. I was looking for the exact wording, how Rev put it. Right? So our feelings, they're not chosen, right? Our feelings choose us. And so it's very important that as soon as your partner begins to communicate, whether it is verbally or otherwise, that you stop to listen, right? And in listening, then worth and affirmation and all those kind of niceties will go along with it, which will make the relationship a better one, a more productive and relevant one. All right. So Rev, I'm going to give you the final say before we go, and I'm going to ask Twain to pray us out after Rev has spoken.
Okay. In relation to all of this now, I feel it is so important that in communication, we learn to listen to each other. We learn to listen. What is the value of listening to somebody? And what I mean by listening, you don't interrupt, because the importance of listening is that you might understand the issue. You might understand the issue. And because at stake is some issue to be understood, to be appreciated. We learn to listen. And when I listen to my partner, I make my partner feel valued. When I listen to my partner, I make my partner feel valued. When I listen to my children, I make my children feel valued. And when I feel valued, it is easier to deal with difficult matters. That's how I'd like to sum it up. In all of this, some listening has to take place. And when I listen, I make my partner feel valued. And when I hear something that is difficult, put this way, there is no easy way to deal with something that makes you feel uneasy, whatever it is. There's no easy way to deal with something that makes you feel uneasy. But as Christians, there's a way that is about dignity and respect and honor. There's a way that is about dignity and respect and honor. And I say this, I think when God thought of marriage, there was a smile on every face in heaven. And when there is dignity and honor and respect, there is a smile on every face in heaven. So we listen. And we choose when we handle something, when we deal with something. And I say this In the end, we are seeking decisions that give a sense of direction. I pray God for the sense of direction on any issue in your marriage that needs to be sorted out. When you do, there's a smile on every face in heaven. God bless you. It was a joy to have been with you. You have given me a privilege of my life to be interacting with you tonight.
Thank you so much, Rev, and we do so appreciate you taking the time to come. We know we've kept you up probably past your bedtime, but it's always a pleasure listening to you. The wisdom that comes from you is, you know, is just so awesome. And just closing with the words of Damien. Damien says, with all these sessions and teachings, my wife, any wife God have planned for me, well set, you know, brother. God send her come, me ready. So long before she come, Rev, just this session alone, well sorted out, you know. So we want to thank you.
Tisha, not easy, you know.
We want to thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for imparting to us. And as you go, we go with, you know, your final words that whatever we do, let us do it so that it gives a sense of direction. So when we go communicating to our partners, please bear it in mind that it should be done to give a sense of direction. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to meeting up again next week, same place and same time. All right, guys, thank you.
Okay, good night.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Yes,
Good
have a
Night,
good night.
everyone.
Night, Rev. Thanks again.
Big up on yourself.
Big up, Twin. Big up, big up.
Same, sir, Twin. Same, sir.
I made
Tisha,
it.
you're not easy, you know.
I made to make it.
Tisha, not easy, man.